after you get out of like a battle, pretty much, they boost you. Hey, I'm Marquise Gladney here at Cybercow Studios, and welcome back. Long time no see. So pretty much we ended up taking a break from doing video production and editing to get more game dev work done. Originally, we planned to come out with the video every 3 weeks, but we found that took us away from the game work a bit too much. So what we ended up doing is just doing a 1.5 month long sprint, and then we took 3 weeks to edit and film video content. This seems to be a lot more efficient for us. We got actually like 4 videos out. Ideally putting these out every 2 weeks. So from 2 weeks from this video, look for that. That's scary. That's a commitment. But we do have those videos. So in this video, we went to round 1 to play Initial D, the arcade game. As you know, we're making an anime inspired drifting game, and it's heavily inspired from the anime Initial D. Now, our game is not taking much inspiration from the actual arcade game because we're highly focused on the anime aspect and really the visual aspect of the anime, but that doesn't mean we definitely won't be using their game as a reference because it is one of the all-time, greatest arcade games out there. So we go play a couple sweaty and frustrating matches of Initial D. We also break down their driving mechanics afterwards. So I just want to pause here because I'm editing this right now. So we do break down the driving system mechanics afterwards, but the video started running a bit too long, so we just put that segment in its own video. Just click the link in the description, it'll take you right to it. Pretty much how their gameplay works, we go over that. We finally cover the title and full concept of the game that we're making, along with the origin story and how we even came up with the idea. After that, Burnley's going to explain the driving system breakdown and how we kind of structure our driving mechanics within the code base. So stay tuned for all that, and definitely please like and subscribe if you already haven't. Also too, please check out our Discord, link in the description. We want to get a community of like-minded creatives in there. We just want to get people who game devs, animators, sound designers, musicians, 3D modelers, whatever you do. If you are an active creative, we want you on our Discord. We want to talk to you. We want you talking with others. We want to collaborate. We want to see collaborations. We want to do a lot of stuff. So join our Discord and say what's up. And we'll definitely say what's up back.
Do you want to play the Hot Wheels? It's a racing game. We'll come back to the Hot Wheels. Why do you hate the
Wings around?
Yeah, you don't like that? No. Oh, this Kung Fu Panda Dojo Mojo.
Apparently the Hot Wheels game's really fun.
Which one?
They just came out with one. It's on PlayStation or it's just downloadable.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but it's apparently really, really fun.
Okay.
Rain, no rain. We're driving in the rain. Here we go. I'm too tall for this machine. Look at this. Look how much my leg has to avoid. Not breaking. Oh God. Oh, he got ahead of me. There we go. Here we go. This is so aggressive. I see. enough of this.
Yeah, I mean,
Had enough of this.
It's hard out there. You were granny collection when you should have been double collection. You know, it's hard.
So far, you know that we're making an action-style drifting game based on the anime Initial D, but we haven't really explained the full concept or even the title, unless you were paying close attention. But we'd like to introduce you to Night Shift. So far, you know this game is about a street racer racing their local mountain roads to become the #1 driver in the city. In our first devlog, we said this game was going to have RPG elements, and we also said
there's also going to be RPG elements in areas where you're outside of your car, so you're going to be able to, you know, explore, interact with others, carry out tasks, story, whatnot. We're not going to talk about that at the moment. We'll get to that later, but for now.
And now is that later. You'll be spending time outside the car working your retail job. That's right, you'll have a job. And yes, it's retail and all the glory that comes along with it. Customers, quotas, managers, the work. You'll be working at an IKEA-like establishment we're calling Eureka. The idea is that you work retail on the night shift, where you'll be dealing with customers, helping them out, and trying to sell them things, hence the quotas. So we're pulling from our combined retail experiences and others. We want the customers and co-workers to feel like they crawled from under the soul-crushing boulder that is retail. And best believe we aren't gonna forget about the managers, because managers are the best people ever. But along with various store tasks, when you're done with your in-store work, as our protagonist, you'll also be making deliveries around the city. And after our protagonist is done with their deliveries, they'll be able to peruse up to the local roads to step into the racing scene and challenge some drivers. So as you're probably guessing, the retail element is gonna play a very heavy role in being able to upgrade your car, because you're obviously gonna need some kind of currency. So yeah, that'll be your main source of income. And it'll have a lot of story elements. Since this is the most time you'll be spending outside of your car, there will be other areas where you're outside of your car, but we want the job aspect to be just as important as the racing, without taking away from the racing, and we want you to enjoy both. Even if the enjoyment of the job is the annoying and sometimes out there customers that you'll encounter. So you're probably wondering, how did we come up with this idea? And the idea came from picking up my wife's sister at IKEA one night. She happened to be working the closing shift. As she was exiting, locking the door of the building, and we're standing outside our cars talking, a bunch of street cars drove up into the parking lot super fast beside us, drifting and turning super hard in the parking spot. Right? And I look over at my wife's sister and I'm like, yo, is this the night shift? Because that was pretty tight if it is. But then more and more cars start flooding in. When I say flooding in, it literally looked like that scene from Fast and the Furious. And as more cars start flooding in, started to create a huge traffic jam in Southern Orange County. And of course, being the modern day millennial that I am, I recorded the entire thing and posted it on Snapchat and luckily saved it. Here's some of that footage now. Race cars. I don't even know what's happening anymore, but we're following it. We're following it. We're just gonna go see where this goes and see what happens. This is some crazy. So I'll tell you what. Is it? Is that? Is it going around? Everyone's. Oh. Okay. Okay. Nah. We got Frankenstein. Frankenstein's been. Oh, but you gotta catch Frankenstein. It pretty much started getting out of hand. Like I said, there's so much traffic in Southern Orange County, and it was just street racers rolling through. Intersections are like blocked, like you're going this way. Street racers are stopped going this way. They're piled up at the gas station. And it seemed like everybody was looking for where this race was going to be at. And so then we're like, let's try to see this race. We started following the cars through the streets, becoming part of this massive chain of cars, but it eventually led to the freeway. It seems like a few people know where they're going, and there's several different groups and individuals trying to figure out who to follow in order to get to the race. As we got on the freeway, there were some racers on the highway, which was pretty sick to be honest. But it seemed like the people who knew where to go were making a lot of confusion to try to gatekeep the masses. And we, of course, were a part of the masses. They would drive in a lot of loops, so you had people circling around in different areas. No one knew exactly who to follow. It seemed extremely coordinated. But we did learn about car meets after that, and it's apparently a super common thing, but I don't know what the heck that was though. So I started working on this game around then, and it was pretty hard, as I mentioned in our first devlog. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Link in the description. Really cool to kind of explain how we're starting a studio from scratch. After deciding to make this leap into the indie scene, felt that this was one of the strongest ones we had, and that we really enjoyed. It's really fun designing for this and problem solving so we can deliver exactly on the gameplay and feel that we're looking for. Felt and still feel that we're making a game that we ourselves will be huge fans of and would enjoy dropping hours into. And that's what's currently driving us now. The pure joy of just seeing this exist. Well, and to continue making the games we like, that's a big part as well. So that's pretty much the origin story and the concept of this game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you're interested and want to see more, we have other videos about how I got in the game industry, how to build a portfolio, different things like that, spaghetti code versus hacking. But definitely check us out on our other social medias as well. Again, link in the description. We're all over TikTok, Instagram. But hope you enjoyed it. Marquis signing out.
So you have to pick the right points to pass. That seems like that was the thing in initial D2, is like you need to pick on certain roads at least. Oh, I see, and that's where the break was coming. Gotcha. I see what you're saying. We should probably have something like that. You get a boost.
You get a boost pass, so it's never.
I guess that's true.
Hey guys, Michael Burnley here, programmer at Cybercout Studios. I want to take a little bit of time to talk about our driving system and how we have it set up so far. There's a clear difference between making a simulation of a car and making a more arcadey version of one. Simulations are tough in a lot of ways and they involve a lot more physics work, but something in between, like what we're trying to do, is just as hard. Our main focus for Night Shift is to make a racing game that plays much more like an action game. Arcade driving games often result in you just holding the gas and tapping the brakes every once in a while to adjust your speed. We want to get away from that. Instead, we want you to have to make constant adjustments to how you're driving and drifting during a race. The drifting is just one part of that. We're hoping to add special things that we'll talk about a little later. Now we'll get into the nitty-gritty. Like most games, we employ a state machine to handle user interactions, and you might be asking, what is a state machine? And I'm here to help with that. I'm going to put an example on the screen. Just take a look at it before I start talking about it. This is an example state machine, in case you've never seen one. Of course, this is just a flowchart. There's actually code that goes along with this, but it's helpful to diagram these things out. So from your base state of standing, you can do one of two things. You can either enter jumping or you can enter into walking. You can then from walking enter into running, but only from standing or running can you enter into jump. So overall, that's pretty easy. And this is the most simple state machine you'll probably ever get. Here's an example of the base for us. In our case, all of our states inherit from our driving state. This does all of the checks for any values that need to be updated constantly, which is a lot because, there's a lot of physics things going on in the back. That driving state also handles any checks for switching into other states. There are specific variables that we do to keep track of that, and driving state usually touches all of them. Braking, steering, and drifting all inherit from the base driving state, and so they share a lot of the same functions, but they all do completely different things. But, as you can see from the graph, is that the drifting state is actually a base for other states. The benefit of this is that we can secure different functions within different states, meaning that they won't overlap. Like most games, every function will run every single frame if you let it. And so we want to make sure that certain things are only running during certain times. The typical way that you would do this when you're starting out with Unity is you just have this variable that gets updated and you just keep checking it over and over again. And honestly, the same philosophy applies here. But in our case, we can at least separate out what needs to be checked and what doesn't need to be checked. I think most games benefit from a state machine approach, and if you want to use one in your own game, I'll put some resources in the description as well as somewhere up here to a tutorial by Ray Wanderlich. It's a really good one, and it served as the base for a lot of our games. Now that was all just to show you how we're separating out the different things the car is allowed to do at any given time. Actually modeling the physics is a different beast altogether. For our game, we're modeling some of what actually makes a car run with some adjustments. This means modeling a simulation of torque, RPM, and horsepower, while more funny things like speed and countersteer we make small adjustments to, just to get a good game feel that we like. For instance, the car speed is a function of horsepower like normal, but there are times when you're getting a boost, either from drifting or special abilities or even some tuning. So we need to add that boost value that degrades over time. Sometimes that's a negative boost, meaning that it slows you down. Doing a lot of stuff there. I know I only lightly touched onto the basics of the physics there, but if you'd like to learn more, there's a great tutorial that I'll put on the screen and in the description. Like, this is something that we use extensively. It's a really good resource, honestly. So that's about all that I can say about the driving system at the moment. However, once we get closer to the demo, you'll probably hear from me talking about the driving system in more detail. Anyway, that's about it for me. So, see ya.
So this concluded our time playing Initial D at the arcade. It's a shame we lost that extra footage that we had, but we do have something special for you.
It's really bad.
Good job. There you go. That's a B-roll.
That's a B-roll? Nice. What the